Most studio owners think their biggest threat is competition, slow enrollment, or the tough economy, but the real threat is often internal, the slow accumulation of more. And more feels like progress. But at the same point, in the same time, it starts working against you. Welcome back to Dance Studio Owner Life Coaching. Today, I am talking about simplicity and why it is so very important to us, especially now. First, I want to talk about the complexity trap. Every addition that you make to your business, to your life, it made sense at the time. So for me, I'm going to talk in this episode a bit about my studio and a bit about my coaching business. One of the things that we did a long time ago is we offered all these different activities for our students. And at the time, they did make sense because they were scheduled as programs that met a specific need. So, for example, we used to run a fun pajama party in March. And we also had a great deal of exciting things happening, kind of bridging the gap in early winter. So, what led to this was we noticed that students would drop off in the December to January, and then sometime around March when we were preparing for the recital. So we decided we wanted to do some strategic programming, retention, promotions in the shop, all the things to cure for people dropping off because they had something exciting to look forward to. There was a little bit of a financial savings with the deals in the shop for shoes and tights and things. And it worked. It absolutely worked. And then on the coaching side, in the last few years, I had done some series of webinars, some different offerings, some small ticket things that they made sense. It helped get information out there. For me, it felt like there wasn't a lot of accessible information available to studio owners, practical things that they could use to grow their business and overcome wherever they were. So I was doing those things and it made sense at the time. This might be something where you're doing birthday parties, intensives, recreational, short term programs. Maybe it's that spring session. Maybe it's offering additional tier of competition. I know a lot of people right now, they have a competition team, they have their recreational program, and then they have this like midway thing, kind of like recreational kids that want to compete. And it's kind of like, the light version of competition for those who don't want to pay too much money or commit too much time. Um, and sometimes that extra complexity is a new software that you thought would be the perfect thing to handle your shows. And so you brought that into the mix. But sometimes what happens is that complexity compounds. The more that you offer, the more staffing may be required, more scheduling involved, more communication to your team and your customers. And oftentimes it's more of you being required to hold it all together. So, and then at some point, you stop running your business and your business starts running you again. And you work so hard to not be there anymore, right? There comes a time where we have to check ourselves, check in with how we're doing, how we're feeling, because I firmly believe that when something needs a little tweak in the business, the first thing that happens as an indicator is we feel it emotionally, whether we're frustrated, whether we're anxious, whatever it is. I believe that oftentimes when something needs a tweak in the business, it is an emotional thing that happens for us. So now that you look at that, you're saying to yourself, okay, I did these things XYZ years ago. So for me, it was in 2017 when we created these programs. And this, if you remember on the podcast, I went through something where I was basically ready to close my studio in 2017. That was a time where our enrollment was so low and our overhead costs and payroll was so high that it was not sustainable. And I was basically ready to close up the business. But as I record this now in 2026, 9 years later, we're not where we were back then. We don't have the same staffing issues. We don't have the same financial issues. So much has changed. And so much has changed for me personally. Just what I do as my day job has changed. Back then, I had a separate full time job in a nonprofit. Um, and so my time and availability, my thoughts around what I could do and how much I could give to the business were very different. I also didn't have any children at that time. So you can imagine what was going on then is very different from what's going on now. So what happens is this complexity that we add to our business, it drains on our mental bandwidth. So when you get too much going on, then your brain kind of goes into a triage mode and you're never fully present in any one thing. You're with your family and you're thinking about this other thing over here. You're with your dance class and you're not really focused on ballet. You're thinking about what's happening in the hip hop room. These things create um, a difficulty when it comes to um, how we make decisions. And sometimes you'll find that you're reacting to things. Like people often say, Ginger, I just feel like I'm putting out fires all the time. And that kind of that kind of way of operating where you feel like you're putting out fires all the time is not leadership. You're just reacting to everything that's happening instead of leading your organization. Um, your staff, these are other signs, right? Your staff will be confused or inconsistent. They don't fully understand what's going on because you have so much going on. If you've got the pajama jam and the K-pop Demon Hunters party, and you've got the 6 week session, and you've got the kids in the current classes preparing for recital, and there's this new promotion over here, and we're marketing the summer camp over there, your team gets bogged down in the complexity. And the other thing that will happen is when there's so much complexity, it starts to hide what's not working, right? You don't really have a clear view of what exactly is the problem, but you know there's something going on. And your customer experience even becomes just like uneven. You don't know, like, nobody's signing up for anything. What's going on? Nobody knows what's going on. When is the recital? Oh, I heard about this thing. When's Bring a Friend Week, right? It just begins to cost us something, quite honestly. Complexity is costing us. So, if we now look at simplicity, one of the things I've done over the last year or two was cut back on some of um, this work that we had created. We had created so many things that honestly didn't serve us anymore, but we were holding on to because it was tradition and we expected that certain students might miss it. But that wasn't even the case. When some of those things we let go, not a single person even asked about it. By the time we got rid of certain events, those children that enjoyed that events at 8 years old, they're now in high school. It's a completely different landscape of where we're at as a studio and a student body than we were in 2017. So when you can strip back and look at things, what is the minimum viable product? What is the minimum viable thing that your studio can offer to be successful without overwhelming yourself or your team or even your customers? When you strip things back, you finally see clearly what's profitable and what you've been quietly subsidizing. Has your summer camp actually been the thing that pays for your company intensive? Has your strong tuition auto pay hidden the fact that you're losing money on these kids who are taking 8, 9, 10 classes a week and paying a lesser rate? This clarity can be uncomfortable, but it is so necessary for the strength and sustainability of our businesses. What I want you to also consider is that when things get too complex and you lose the simplicity of running your business, you start to lose yourself. Complexity slowly separates you from why you even started. When you are so fixated on the next thing and the next thing and the next thing and the next thing, you don't have a chance to stop and, as they say, smell the roses, appreciate what you do have, figure out what's working and profitable so that you can double down on it. The studios that I talk to, those that are struggling, they are constantly working on the next thing. They're not focused on what's working. They don't look at and examine what is currently successful and making me money. How do I do more of that? And I'm finding that so many studios are pouring their resources, time, and energy into adding new things, making things more complex, instead of strengthening what's already working. The studios that I see that have big programs with strong enrollment, strong revenue, and paying themselves have found the formula, what is successful, what is working, and they double down on it. They not only run a successful preschool program, they train their teachers on the exact formula that works to create more successful preschoolers that they grow up in their studio. They don't run out and buy the next software. They don't run out and buy the next curriculum trying to change what might already be successful. The other thing I notice is those studios that have that strong growth and enrollment and revenue, those are the studios that say, we offer X, we know what we do well, and they're kind of just staying in their lane. They're not chasing the latest trend. They're not getting everybody certified in a program that they're not even bought into and want to do. They're not trying to advertise 15 different items at the same time. They know what their bread and butter is. Maybe for you, it's your kindergarten classes. Maybe for you, it's your preschool. Maybe for you, it's a ballet program. Maybe it's ballroom. And instead of trying to put your feelers out there and try everything and see what sticks, what those successful studios are doing is saying, this is my strongest program. How do I grow my strongest program? Now, listen to what I said, right? This is my strongest program. How do I grow my strongest program? How do I put that on wash and repeat so I can scale my strongest program? What they're not doing is saying, well, this is my weakest program. How do I fix and grow my weakest program? This is my least profitable program. How do I do more of this? This is how we get ourselves stuck, okay? It gets us so stuck. But simplification is how we come back to ourselves, come back to our mission, come back to the studio. So this is what I'm going to say. I'm going to encourage you to think of what are some ways you can simplify your business? What are some ways you can simplify your life? How do you invite simplicity as we go into spring? How do we invite simplicity into our operations and find ourselves again? I encourage you to give it a try. Reach out to me on Instagram. I'm at HaithCoxBiz on Instagram. Let me know how it's going. Have you found something where you want to dive in deeper to simplicity to make things better for yourself and your business? Now, my friends, I have to mention this. We are just weeks away from starting our next cohort of the Leadership Roundtable. We're going to be starting on April 7th, and I invite you to apply and join us. Now, this is what it is. We are a small group of studio owners. We have high-level conversations about real life, things that are going on, and our business. We are growing our businesses, but not at our own expense. This is a small room. This is not a giant webinar with hundreds of studio owners. There is not an exact formula for success that you must follow. You see, the average person in the leadership roundtable has at least 10 years in business. They know, they know their student body. And what we're doing is we're growing and supporting and inspiring each other. If this sounds like the room you want to be in, go to thestudioownerlifecoach.com, get the information, and join us. It is only $5.97 for the 8-week container. And I am telling you, this is exactly what some of you need. It's about having someone to have those conversations with, the things that your husband or your best friend don't understand. This is it. This is a diverse room. This is not a one size fits all room. And we invite you to take a seat at our table, the Leadership Roundtable. That website again is thestudioownerlifecoach.com. And I cannot wait to talk to you next time. Take care.